You can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Everywhere.
Can you hear me now?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Yes, right from your Android or iPhone. Download the Radio Cayman app now on your Android or iOS phone.
The Radio Cayman app
Is where you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere you go.
Everywhere we go, we go. Everywhere we go, we go.
Find it in the Google Store, the Apple Store, or use the link at www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Yes, now you can listen to Radio Cayman everywhere.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. And thanks for joining us. It's another wonderful Wednesday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of a conversation. We started off talking about the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. There's a Cayman's Real Estate Forum coming up that we want you to learn about. And of course, at 1 p.m., I have the excellent company with Stephanie de Santos. That's going to be an amazing discussion as we invite you to stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village, convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. And Royal Fidelity Bank and Trust, money at work.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for joining us. And it's a pleasure to learn more about what happens in our different sectors. And I'm glad that the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, the Rscs Qualification Chapter, through his representatives here, Mr. Simon Watson, one of the partners of Charterland, together with the committee members for the event, Mr. Andrew McBean. Thanks both of you for sharing. And of course, I think like this, Uchi always comes into the mix.
Yes.
Amazing fellow he is, right?
Absolutely, he's very driven.
That he is. But for us though, and I've always been mindful, and I think Simon, you have reminded us just at the outset, all these discussions, we want people to appreciate, as parents in particular, but as teachers, how we can encourage the students to consider these careers. But at some point before we close out the discussion, I would be most grateful if you would have that invitation. But tell us, as we sort of get started, RCI, our RICS, RCIPS. What is it? Tell us, give us an overview, would you please?
Yeah, just as a quick background, the ICS is the leading global organisation in terms of setting and promoting property standards, in terms of development and management of land, real estate, infrastructure. It basically touches everything within the built world, if you like. An RSCS qualification basically assures someone seeking property services that the chartered surveyor they're engaging or thinking of engaging has the correct qualifications to enable them to undertake the services to be provided. But also it assures them of they actually have ongoing monitoring as well. Every year we have to do continued professional development, and we'd have to do submissions back to the ICS. So that it's not just a qualification they've had 30 years ago. It's being continued, and they're continually being monitored to ensure they're acting with independence, integrity, and utmost professionalism.
Yeah, not unlike we see with engineers and doctors,
Absolutely.
accountants, lawyers, and the like, or educators as well.
Yeah.
Now, from that perspective, though, when you think of property management, you think of going to the surveyors, we think of that nature. We can see the built heritage, the built environment. membership, for instance? I mean, globally, we have the Cayman chapter, but you also have the global organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, globally, there's 134,000 members at the moment in 110 different countries. Locally in Cayman, we're up to about 60 members now, which is a lot more than it used to be. We're still looking to increase that, and particularly as we touched on earlier, and you just mentioned, from young Caymanians. We want to show it as an alternative career route to accounting, to law, and how get people excited and interested in it as a profession. At the moment, there's just no one coming through the pipeline. Most of the jobs are taken with expats and work permits, and we need to promote it locally. I think it's important.
In that vein, as we talk about the conference either, but just to get people the perspective, we probably got an idea if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor, an accountant, the training, where we got an appreciation as to the criteria, but to become a chartered surveyor and to be a member, first the training to get there, and then what are the criteria for membership?
Yeah, I mean it's very similar in a way. You generally would take an appropriate bachelor's degree, whether it's in quantity surveying or valuation surveying,
building surveying.
Absolutely. And then once you have your degree, which exempts you from the old-fashioned exams they had, then you have to do what's known as an assessment of professional competence, a bit like the articles, I guess, in law. It's a 2-year process. So the whole thing takes between sort of 5-6 years to get fully qualified and get your letters. But it's certainly achievable, and it's I think it's a worthwhile thing. Obviously, I was excited by it. But
Andrew. And just to add to that, we have got two categories. We have an associate's pathway, and we have a chartered pathway. And for the associate's pathway, we have about 13 different pathways, and that's geared at beginners, students. For the chartered pathways, we have 22 pathways available. So it's a variety of professions across the industry. So from building surveying, geomatics, project management, valuation surveying, quantity surveying. This is a whole range of professions across the industry. We have pathways. But it really is a rigorous process that tests your level of knowledge and competence. And of course, we're regulated. So we have, as Simon mentioned, we have that requirement to stay on top of our professional development.
Now, is that regulation similar to we've seen in the professions where it's in-house, you're self-regulating, or is that legislation as well?
Yeah, it is a self-regulating organisation, and they've done great leaps in recent years to ensure that the government agencies are satisfied with the internal regulation. They brought in the value registration scheme and things like that to basically ensure that the governments know exactly that it is being properly regulated. I think that's so important, particularly after the banking crash in 2008. A lot of valuations came under the microscope there, and there was concerns that they needed to tighten ship, if you like, and increase regulation, and that's how they reacted, and it's very well regulated at the moment.
And we see that global sort of consequence impacting us here locally in terms of not just due diligence, but how the valuations are presented, the formalities, and the cross checks, as it were.
No, absolutely, yes. I mean, there's this sort of standardised approach that the banks require. They expect everyone to be a chartered valuation surveyor. They expect them to be a registered valuer. The formats of the reports need to be sort of standardised. And also, very importantly, we're required to carry professional indemnity insurance. So if there are any issues, then we are liable, and we the banks can go after us. And that's not necessarily the case with much of the other Caribbean islands, but here it's definitely it's required by the banks.
And I guess that level of objectivity and impartial, you assessing it based on what you see. There's no other thing at stake other than this is a professional assessment.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's a big declaration in there saying this is purely an objective point of view, and we're not swayed in any way, and our fees aren't dependent on any value being reached and matters such as that.
If it would be helpful to the public, we talk about valuations and surveys, and there's a quantity surveyor, there's a land surveyor. Perhaps a quick difference, and is the land surveyor eligible to be a part of the Rscs?
There's a whole range. A chartered surveyor, I think that's basis a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
As you were saying, it's probably about 14 different routes. I mean, there's even mineral surveyors involved in mining and marine surveyors in underwater mapping. I mean, generally in Cayman we have, everyone's more familiar with the land surveyors. And they're the ones who are licensed as well by government. But we also have chartered valuation surveyors who are more involved in the valuation side and built property. Quantity surveyors more involved in construction cost estimating.
The quantities and
But there are overlaps in all of them, basically. I mean, we're all, I guess you could say, I like to say, like doctors. Everyone's a doctor, but you have the ability to deal with certain
areas,
ailments, but there's certain specialism, exactly,
And the functions sort of change. For example, a quantity surveyor who works with a contractor actually has slightly different performs slightly different functions from one that works for a consulting firm. But there is still an overlap. So the functions we perform on a project, we might be on the same project, but the functions will vary a little bit. But there is a lot of overlap. Cayman is a very unique market as well. And you find that because of our size, we don't have as many specializations, so we have more people generalizing, and you have you're actually, it's a good place to get trained actually, because you develop much more broad-based experience here.
You really get that approach. I mean, we see it all the time, and it's maybe one of the things that should be your greatest attraction and selling feature, but not as capitalized by our people as possible.
Right.
Maybe when we come back from this break, you can tell us about the upcoming, we just did a forum, get into it, the when, the wheres, and the wherefores.
Excellent.
All right, we invite you to be a part of a discussion. Please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy, busy, busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
The HSA Specialist Clinic has relocated to a new, modern, state-of-the-art facility at Smith Road Center to offer you a better patient experience. Receive care from top specialists in chiropractic, complementary and alternative medicine, neurology, ENT, urology, pain management, and more. Our orthopedic and telemedicine clinics remain at the Cayman Islands Hospital campus. Please remember to bring your own face mask when visiting any HSA location. Visit our website, hsa.ky, to learn more. At the HSA, you matter to us.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And it's a pleasure to be able to focus not just on the real estate sector, but to see the professionalism, within the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors through its Cayman Islands chapter. Mr. Simon Watson, together with Andrew McBean, joins us. And there's the Cayman Islands Real Estate Forum coming up Friday.
That's correct. Yep.
All right. Tell us about it, man. I mean, what are some of the key objectives? And give us an overview of how it's going to look, Andrew.
We actually we have had a sort of 2-year hiatus since the last conference. It's usually a one-day event. This year it's a condensed 2-hour event. But we really want to look at where the market is right now relative to where it was, where we were 2 years ago, and where we're likely to be in the coming years. Obviously, COVID has had a severe impact, and for us, we have seen a lot of positives here, but everybody's asking the question as to whether or not it's sustainable. And so we've sought to bring together a lot of the industry leaders. Obviously, we have a load of people, but we have a limited capacity there. So we've brought together some interesting people from different sectors, including realtors, just to give us an overview, people that are in touch with what's happening, and for us to look at the market data. We have Simon will be doing presentation. He does regular reporting on market data. So we're bringing together people who can present the actual data in the market for us to sort of look at the trends, see where we're going, and to give people an opportunity to interact and ask questions. So we'll have a formal presentation segment, and then we'll have a question and answer period which will be interactive with the audience.
I think this is where we'll learn, but the networking opportunities there as well.
Yes.
Now, you said it's going to be a condensed, sort of intense, as a 2-hour session as opposed to a one day. Time and place?
So we're going to be at the Marriott Ballroom, and we're expecting to have at least 250 attendees. I think at this point we're a bit oversubscribed, but as history tells us, we usually have a sort of no-show rate, low attrition rate. So we're hoping that even if we're prepared, even if we get more than 250, we can accommodate them.
Yeah, well, that's a wonderful facility.
Yeah, if you're still interested in attending, then definitely try and register, because there's definitely spaces, and we look forward to seeing everyone there.
Yeah, and I mean, it is a real estate forum, but as you start to emphasize, maybe could expound a little further some of the key areas that you'll be looking at, because there's a lot that is transpiring within the Cayman marketplace itself.
I mean, there's going to be sort of 3 approaches to the presentations. I'm sort of relying on the information I put together every year for the Cayman Property Review that I do on an annual basis. So I'm looking basically sort of the last 20 years, how did we get here, the ups and downs of the market, and where we're at, and that's going to be based on information from the land registry. So it's all sales that have been registered with the Cayman Islands Land Registry. Then we have James Bavell, who's going to be looking more from a SUIBA point of view, using SUIBA data. And then we've got a couple of gentlemen, Lou Dimitrioff and Matthew O'Keefe, who are economists and statisticians from DART. So they'll be taking their sort of unique approach to a more statistical approach to the market. So I think there'll be something for everyone there. And then, of course, as Andrew said, I think the question and answer session has great interest, and I think a lot of people will be preparing their questions for that.
No, and that's the part where I think you see the surveys, but even the economists coming into way, and we watch the physical sort of infrastructure being developed, but then there's a social component to it as well, how we engage and interact with the space and how it impacts us. You referenced with a question that your sort of key target audience, the developers, the real estate people, but who are some of the others that you think would be of great benefit in attending the forum?
Yeah, I think anyone who's interested in real estate in Cayman, I think that's basically everyone, really. I mean, particularly what, as Andrew said, with the effect of COVID over the last year, and just with all the development that's going on, I think people are just talking amongst themselves what's happening, what direction is this taking. And I think they'll all benefit from attending at the forum, really, and hearing the discussions, and maybe asking some questions as well.
I mean, Andrew, as you referenced earlier, there's a lot of sort of discussion generally, I think, amongst ourselves, informally at times, or even within our offices, as to what is it, the Cayman physical landscape going to look like in 5 years, in 50 years, projects that are already been approved or being proposed. All these things impact us as individual investors, us as individual stakeholders, but us as a country. These sort of discussions in the Q&A may unfold as well.
Yes, absolutely. We expect some of those to come up, and just going back to who might benefit, down to the person trying to make a basic decision whether or not to sell or buy a property. I'm sure that there has been a lot of concern about people not being able to afford property in the future based on what's happening. So I think and I don't have the statistics, but if you go based on discussions, people have sort of had a buying frenzy, for example, in the small islands, in the sister islands, because people see it as a more affordable alternative. So back to Grand Cayman, where most of our focus is, the real question is, where are we going to be in another 5-10 years? How do we manage the development? My personal thought, as we were discussing during the break, is that we really need a country plan. We really need to lay out how we're going to develop our infrastructure, how where our specialized areas are going to be, because before we sort of had some ad hoc development. We've seen just with Georgetown redevelopment the effort it took to sort of put that scheme together, which they did a really good job of. But we want to see, I think we need to be looking at how do we plan for the greater portion of the country. Right now we're facing traffic woes, infrastructure with transportation. How do we handle that? Coupled with what happens with the population. Do we have to grow it for what we're doing to be sustainable? So there are many things that need to be discussed. Since COVID, the way we've managed COVID has made us really attractive, and I think that is putting buying pressure on. That's what you're seeing developers respond to. So even though there's a great fear of us being able to sustain what's here, I think we don't realize how much of the pressure is external.
Yeah, we can see the internal, but that's as you've referenced, the external pressures. People may be buying property sight unseen, for instance.
Yes.
Yeah. There could be land banking, hedging their inflation or even their currency woes.
Yeah. There's definitely been an increased interest in Cayman as a real estate sort of market for overseas purchasers as a result of being seen as a safe haven during COVID. We know for sure there's some very high net worth individuals who are here for the first time who are buying things up, and the price being paid way above what we've experienced previously. So it's definitely going to be an interesting challenge for the future for the island.
And there's that socioeconomic impact that Andrew you referenced earlier. Yeah, it's going to make the governments, this one and the ones 50 years from now, perhaps have to grapple with as well.
Absolutely.
These are sort of forum, I think, allow many to exchange ideas, hopefully in a space where there's a sense of confidence in what is shared, a sense of credibility, but also that competence, allowing it to be a communal effort. Now, Marriott on Friday, today's Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yes.
You were oversubscribed. People listening, they're busy, they may have just hearing about it. Possible to get registered still?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's, please do so. As we say, with these things, the fee's very low. I think it's $35. So you tend to get a lot of no-shows as well. Firms buy them for the staff, and sometimes they don't turn up. They don't all turn up.
They get busy as well.
Yeah, exactly. So please do. And I think that there's a online registration, but I think you can also register by emailing Uche. I think he's collating all this together.
Yes.
You got his email address? Or
yeah, we have, that's Ucheobi 1969. That's UCHEOBI 1969 at yahoo.com. So that's UCHEOBI 1969 at yahoo.com. They can also just type in 2021 RICS Cayman Real Estate Forum. Just Google that and it will bring up the link. I think there's been so much activity. We're having some issues on the website for people paying, but it should be back up and running today.
Yeah, if you can't get through, then use the email address. We want to make sure that everyone who's interested in coming can attend.
All right, and it's going to be at the Marriott on Friday. But what? It's 2 hours, so starting at
4:30 to 6:30, and then there's a networking event afterwards as well, so you can mingle with the presenters and each other, and
it's a Friday afternoon.
Continue the discussion.
Yes.
Exactly.
Good way to socialise, to network, to sort of end the day and start the week.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Place,
yes, absolutely.
That is a good place to. I mean, we were just there earlier for the Santos launch. I think Marriott over the years has been a good community gathering place, as it were, for these sort of professional conferences equally.
Yeah, they've been good to us, and we've had all our conferences there, and been very successful in the past.
If I might, though, I mean, I'm not going to ask you to speak at a school, but there are, and we alluded to them earlier, what are the key factors affecting sort of property and construction within Cayman, I think we're starting to see maybe for the first time the external forces that play even more so with the high net worth individuals, for instance, buying, but with potential investors and developers. Hey, it's a good place to capitalize. What are some of those things that you think that as a general public we're not cognizant of, or we see it, but we're going, that's just short-lived? Are there particular things that may be emphasized at the conference relative to those key factors affecting the sector?
I think we're definitely going to touch on affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
That's obviously a big concern, I think, for many Caymanians out there. How to get onto the property ladder.
Mm-hmm.
The size of the down payments, coupled with the stamp duty and the rising prices, and the perception that there's a lot of the developers are now building out sort of mid to upper range, maybe more profitability in that. Are they addressing sort of the lower end of the market as much as once before? I mean, these are all things we need to discuss and address, and I think that's very important for the future of the island, really, and its cohesion.
I mean, housing and ownership and literally having a stake, but the word affordable itself could be relative.
Well, exactly.
Subjective.
How do you measure that? Absolutely, that's very important.
There was a time ago when it was 125,000, they went to 150.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now it's affordable $500,000. I mean, what is affordable in relative terms?
Yeah.
100.
And as you see with the government's first-time buyer waiver, they keep increasing that threshold as the prices go up. But,
so it's obviously we're now in a period. People in the industry are aware that we're facing cost increases, global cost increases. Global shortages have driven cost increases, and so people have looked to Asia, looked to China as a source for more affordable materials. But then we've now faced with a shipping shortage globally, a shipping container shortage, which has taken away the advantage of buying. So irrespective of where you're sourcing the inputs, we're actually facing some steep price increases. Now, even before we saw that, I can't really speak to the reason why the price levels have crept up for affordable housing, but I see people they might be taking advantage of the fact that people have that break up to the 400,000 limit. So we have seen affordable homes near that mark. And I listen to the surveyors discuss the market very often, the valuation surveyors, and it's always a discussion surrounding what is a real value, and you argue that the market value is set by the buyers and the sellers, what they're willing to exchange. But at some point in our market, it just seems as if I'd submit to Simon because he's a valuation expert. Somewhere we just see that prices have just sort of kept climbing higher.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously, as you said, the definition of market value is willing buyer, willing seller, acting with knowledge of the market. That's a key thing that people forget.
Right.
So maybe some of these prices being paid for these high-end properties aren't necessarily market value because you've got a billionaire from South America, then, is he acting prudently and knowledgeably on the market, or is he just thinking, well, I can afford it, so I'm going to buy it? So that sort of affects the top end. And the bottom end, it's affected by, can you actually get into the market? I mean, it's a huge lump sum that you have to have now in order to pay for your stamp duty, the down payment, irrespective of the actual price set for the property. It's how do you actually sort of get onto the ladder.
There are many barriers to entry.
Exactly.
For that
So I think it's worth looking at that as well, I think. And, I think the stamp duty, even if you don't waive it, at least maybe spread it out over a 5-year payment for certain sectors of the market. And, so there's things to be done to address that, I think, that we need to start looking at.
But isn't all those instances, whether it's the concessions now to be granted, stamp duty abatement, or as you suggested, maybe a payment plan over a period of time, in addition to that mortgage payment, it seems like the country and the government, through its deferred taxes or even denied taxes, that's the cost. And then that lost revenue, well, where do we have money for education, healthcare, infrastructure?
There's also a perception that the concessions are out there, but they're only for the wealthy, they're for the top end developers, and not for those the working class Caymanian who wants to purchase a property. So, it's all a topic for discussion, which will be discussed in great detail on Friday, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Well, this is why I appreciate you sharing with us a perspective. Maybe those of us who will attend will understand that. Then we go back to our respective quarters and share it. So it helps to inform, ourselves, but inform those that we influence, and in a wider public discussion. This is where that concession has an example to the developer who seemingly, to some people, well, do you need this in order to make your project profitable? If it is it really beneficial, as opposed to the other person who's coming up as a way to maybe have something down the road that puts them in a better state, so they don't have to eventually return to the public coffers for assistance.
Absolutely.
Where is the benefit?
Yeah, it needs to be a discussion about what is the purpose of that concession? Who is it to benefit? And I think that's definitely an important discussion to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, with respect to the conference, I mean, as you shared, it's $35. It's going to be in the evening on Friday. Still can register and the like. And maybe after the conference, the invitation is there for you to come back, whether yourselves or others. This is what was said. It's already in the public domain now. We can speculate as to what may have transpired. So,
Yeah, always happy to.
Yeah, man. And give us a more, perhaps exhaustive as possible discussion. Because this is going to inform us, it's going to affect us, and we can see the impact immediately on the public treasury, but even us as individuals deciding to undertake a project, whether it's a 1-unit thing or a 100-unit.
It's something that affects everyone on the island in property.
Without question. Well, gents, I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
As we started with Simon, maybe Andrew, if you wish a quick closing comment, by all means.
We hope to, as an organisation, sort of make better inroads in reaching out to young Caymanians. We want to get them really involved, and this is a good place to start. We have invited some students to join us, and we are going to be performing some outreach programs. We do mentorship programs. We go to the job fairs, as Simon mentioned earlier, and we have committees that have been set up to do greater outreach. We have an events committee, and this forum that we're having is one such event where we're hoping to reach a broader populace and get more people recognizing what it is that we're hoping to impart on them and the benefits of it. As for the conference, I'd like to invite everybody, as many people as possible, to come down, get involved. I think we need to, it's very important now, especially given what's happening, especially if you're local. Even if you don't have a direct involvement in the industry at this time, what's happening in the industry affects all of us. So we invite everybody to come and join us on Friday.
Very much trust it'll be successful. Simon?
Thank you very much.
All right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Thank
again,
you for the opportunity.
We'll talk about it after the fact as well, so we can get more discussion. Gents, enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully the forum will be another resounding success for you.
Yes, and thanks for having
us. Thank you so much. Yeah,
As a
thank you
pleasure.
for the opportunity.
I'm going to pause and take a short break, and when we come back, I want you to rejoin us. So please stay tuned for Talk Today.
Things just got a bit hotter on Island. Come in today and order the new spicy Korean subs at Subway. They're sweet, spicy, and especially satisfying. Stop in and try the pulled pork with spicy Korean sauce, or the chicken with spicy Korean sauce. And you can message WhatsApp at 929-4658. Order online or use Let's Eat or the Bento app. The spicy Korean subs at Subway in 2 flavors, extra saucy and extra spicy. Subway, eat fresh.
The La Masque Dinner Show, an elegant evening of fine dining, live entertainment, and more at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, Saturday, June 5th, 7 p.m. to midnight. Tickets are just $150 each on eventpro.ky or visit Les Classiques to book a table of 10. Proceeds to benefit the HSA's dialysis unit. The La Masque Dinner Show, a signature Badabanu event, June 5th at the Kimpton Seafire Resort. See you there.
Did you know that defective airbags can cause serious injury or even death if not repaired immediately? Right now, millions of vehicles around the world are under recall for faulty Takata airbags, and yours could be one of them. At Vant Motors, our priority is to make sure the Toyota or Ford you drive is safe. So we are offering customers a free, fast, and easy airbag swap out if your vehicle was manufactured in 2016 or earlier. Find out if you need to have new airbags installed by emailing your Ford or Toyota vehicle's VIN or vehicle identification number to service@vampmotors.com or stop by Vamp's Service Center or call us at 949-2245. Don't risk it. Get the airbags in your Toyota or Ford checked for free at Vamp Motors on Walkers Road.
Your Radio Cayman 6 p.m. news, Monday through Friday, is brought to you by Logic. Your life connected.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. 949-8037 or toll free with the kind compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. Right after the headline news at 1. I have a special guest in the studio to share with us, and we want you to be a part of that discussion. There is, without question, immense talent within our shows, and we like to showcase and celebrate that. As we invite you to be a part of a discussion, let's go to the phones. Good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for calling.
Hi, Sterling.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
In the rain, beautiful.
Oh, man. I hope you're managing to stay somewhat, between the raindrops.
Yes, half dry off and on.
There you go. I'd rather you say half dry than half wet, right?
Exactly.
There you go.
I just caught the tail end of your conversation there with those gentlemen. Where are they from, Sterling? What an organization, or what were they actually talking about?
Okay, so this is the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. It's the Cayman Charter chapter. It's for sort of chartered surveyors, and they're having a real estate forum this Friday afternoon for people in the real estate, construction, and sort of development sectors, but the general public as well,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I heard a little piece then in regards to the stamp duty and trying to, probably split it up in a couple of months of payments for the individual to get started, with a home or whatever the case may be. But Sterling, what I'm calling about, we can give away all of this free concession, but we can't give an average local person free stamp duty to get a little 2x2 bedroom house here in the Cayman Islands. That's what I'm calling about.
Right. And I think too.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think that's what one of the guests just then sort of, sort of asked the question. We give developers, sort of the perception of the rich, make a development a concession, but then what about that smaller, perhaps one that might need it in order to make the project successful.
Yeah. Exactly. So this thing that they're gonna have you, do they feel like the average Caymanian could benefit from their what you would call it their what they're having something. What's
right.
the correct word?
Well, you want to call it a conference, a forum,
anything,
right.
Forum conference, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they feel deep down inside that the Caymanian come to that whenever it is, they will probably gain something? So what do you think?
Well, when in asking, they answered to share that it's not just open for their membership; it's open for anyone in the public that's interested in the sector. And I think sometimes when these things happen, they either geared specifically for the industry or for the organization. Sometimes when the public can attend, it may occur at a time when work commitments or family commitments might make it difficult. This is a Friday afternoon. It's 4:30 on a Friday afternoon at the Marriott. It's probable that this might increase the opportunities for people, generally speaking, to be able to go. Of course, there are limitations relative to how much space, can be people can be accommodated in a space. But anyone who's interested, they should check it out. I think it would be very, very beneficial.
Well, I'm not going to be rude or anything, but I guess everybody feels the pinch nut at the time that we bring the locals, the Caymanians, into these types of meetings and forums and so forth to hear to get their opinion on trying to get something for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the country we have been left behind for so long. You know.
But and I think I hear you, right? I hear what you're saying, but think about it. If we as a people, do we not now need to organize ourselves? Do we not now need to step forward to ensure that we're not taking a place, a seat at the table, but the fact that we're, the table is us. If you wait often, you get excluded.
Yes, it's time that some of us be able to sit around that big table, and I don't have anything against that. I'm all for that.
Mm.
But sometimes it takes a little bit too long to try to bring us in, and now that we're getting in, it is good. But I would like to know the end results of how, if they would really be eligible for something down the line in the future, which we're all being left behind to a degree.
Yeah,
but anyhow.
Mm-hmm. No, go ahead, Mom. Go ahead.
I just feel that it's so heartbreaking to know that you got to pay all of this the stamp duty.
Yeah.
If you want to hit all of these investors in stamp duty in the average Cayman and trying to get a home and stamp duty, their biggest problem, house insurance and life insurance. We need to work those things out.
Right. But the government has, over the years, increased it. Now, maybe it's to some, they're not aware of it. Maybe the process is different. But I think that when it comes to the Caymanian having, as a first-time homeowner, being able to now acquire a property at a higher value and get some concession, whether it's a complete 100% abatement of stamp duty or it's an appropriated amount, I think we're getting there. We're getting there. So
we're getting there. Yes.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you go, but your last caller yesterday, I tried to call back, but he was ready to go. The last caller was talking about government, getting a grocery store, and she went to some island, and apparently they had two different prices, one for the locals, one for the visitors.
Mm-hmm.
That's all good and well, but Sterling, when the Regency have been sitting there for all these years, people say, why did the government buy that and have our own hotels to bring in some money into the country? They didn't step up on it. The other gentleman purchased it. So I just want to say that government do not go so fast.
But do we want that?
Sterling, I tell you, honest God, too, it's not going to be much better in prices to a degree. Even if we go two different prices, then the ones that live here, they can say, we racist and it's not fair. We live here too, and we pay indirect taxes and so forth. It's going to be a big crime. And then they're going to have to come back and put it back to normal. So I really can't see the government doing a grocery store. We just barely got the agriculture ground up there with the cow feeding and.
Yeah. But maybe this time that we start to look at things differently and not borrow that thing that's been worn and limited success that we may have seen attempted in other places.
Yes, Sterling, what our biggest problem is when we open our floodgate, we welcome everybody here, and everybody just say, you know what, this place is pure honey and milk. I'm going to just do as I please, and that's what's been happening. And to go now and try to change things in Cayman, man, you will be shoot down with words and spring of plankton and all that kind of stuff. Because they got everybody spoiled rotten. They are spoiled rotten.
Yeah, well, times are changing. I think that is time for us to, make that change.
I hope they could get some changes, but it's going to be a lot of hard work and some real government that's going to stand behind it, not just for 4 years, and throw it down, and let another government come in, and then they'll pick it up.
Right. Well,
every government want to do their own thing. Yeah. They don't want to do what other government did. They want to do their own thing.
Well, let's work together. I think we find the strength in unity, not just safety and security. Hey, thanks much.
Exactly. You have a great one.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, bye. After the headline news, we want you to join us. Have a very special guest, and we invite you to be a part of a discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
Read the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice. Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
Government reported the results of 166 COVID-19 tests. All came back negative. Public Health says more than 78,000 vaccinations have been administered locally, with an estimated 65% of the population getting at least one of the two-dose course. Good afternoon. I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. A gunman has opened fire in a commuter train yard in California, killing multiple people, police say. The shooting took place at the Santa Clara Valley Transportation Authority rail yard in San Jose today. The victims include transit employees, and the suspect has died. And Amazon has agreed to buy the historic MGM Studios for $8.45 billion. MGM is one of Hollywood's most famous studios, having produced classic films such as Some Like It Hot and Singing in the Rain. The sale will give the tech giant's prime streaming service access to a huge back catalog of content. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, radiocayman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, and thanks for joining us. I think earlier in our discussion we quickly referenced, and I don't want you to gloss over it, that within our shores, whether they're generation, the Caymanian with many, many centuries behind them, or whether they've been recent to our shores or they're PR in their 10th year, we have immense talent. We have people with great love, spirit, and a sense of accommodation that wants to build us up through positivity. Wanted to welcome to us with a good friend, Stephanie dos Santos. Welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
There is much, I think, in a world where people are more positive. We're hearing from someone, as a caller yesterday reminded us that, it's difficult for the brain to engage sort of negativity. Yet we focus so heavily on the bad as opposed to the good. We don't see the positive smile that nurtures.
Yeah, it's true that the brain tends to focus on everything that is negative for some reason.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a conscious effort to become aware of our thoughts, to be able to redirect them afterwards.
If it would be okay with you, so that our listeners get to appreciate, I think that for me, I'm able to, especially now, take a journey globally. We can't leave our shores like how we would. We can't go to the places like we should. And we certainly haven't gone where we have sort of contemplated. So right within the Cayman space, I've been able to take a sort of a quasi-world tour, as it were. Would you share with our listeners, who is Stephanie?
Who is
a little bit about you.
I'm a citizen of the earth, to start with. I think it's kind of like reductive, to say I'm from here, there. But yeah, I was born in France with a Portuguese father, so I know what it's like to face also like injustice, because of your background or whatever. And with time I like to say that I'm citizen of the earth, lived in many other countries. I'm very grateful to be here in Cayman since a year and a half. And you tell me what else you want to know about.
I will. And this is where I welcome our people as we listen, and we can quickly look to our offices and see the different nationalities that we work, whether our office is, hopefully the deck of a boat somewhere, or whether it's in a hotel, or whether it's one of the big offices downtown, whether it's in a professional setting in accounting, or whether we are working in retail and hospitality. There's so many people here who have, either deliberately and consciously came to Cayman because that was a goal, or they just happened to stumble upon it because their last stop was maybe one of the other, offshore financial centers, or maybe they're working for a hotel somewhere in Europe, and they just follow the chain as they get promotions. But there's a special thing about Cayman, a consciousness, a deliberateness.
Yes.
How do you find that? I mean, last year was a long century, I often joke about, and it's been impactful for many. But being here, being in a space where the sun, the sand, the sea, but it's the society that brings us together. I like what you shared with us. I had to write it down to make sure, collective consciousness came on.
Yes.
We take for granted too much, but you embrace life, as it were.
How do I embrace life?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what the global situation has been teaching us, it's that freedom is really something to be found within ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we feel trapped, we can't get out or anything. I mean, freedom doesn't limit of what we have access to on the outside. Freedom is really a mindset, how you can free yourself from within, which is definitely developing that self-awareness of where our thoughts are going.
Mm-hmm.
And when we feel trapped into our minds, focusing on the negative, well, we feel like we're in jail.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter with what's outside the global situation or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot the name of this Chinese lady that got sent to jail.
Mm-hmm.
And she was she talked about a story and said how free she felt because the circumstances pushed her to dive into ourselves and getting to a greater understanding of ourselves and how powerful your mind is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think as I listen to you, words of different songs come to mind about Marla. None but ourselves can free our minds, and free yourself, and the rest will follow. So you said freedom is a mindset. To the incarcerated Nelson Mandela, who was, we picture in that confined space, how does he not just survive but overcome and then be the success that he was to influence the world? In this particular space that we find even today, people are still hearing and using and almost accepting words like lockdown. They are now under stay-at-home orders. There is no war with bombs overhead that we read about in history and during the world wars. Yet people are required by legislation sometimes to remain indoors. That could potentially negatively affect people's mental health and well-being.
Absolutely. And I think this is, there's always two faces to the same coin.
Mm-hmm.
And how to say that? And I think that what it has brought to us is to have that awareness that we have built walls between our mind
mm-hmm.
and our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the energy that is generated from the heart comparing to the mind, the heart center is so powerful, radiates so much more. And all those walls that we have between that bridge,
mm-hmm.
between the bridge with the brain and the heart, it's all conditionings.
Okay.
I'm into psychogenealogy, so I'm also aware of the impact that unhealed ancestors' traumas have on us. And we carry them as well. So there's this component as well as society conditionings and wanting to meet parents' expectations, society expectations. And like I shared with you already, from 0 to 7 years old, the brain is on the theta vibration, which is the hypnosis vibration.
Mm-hmm.
So even if we think we're so small and everything, not to pick up anything, this is absolutely wrong. So we're going to learn our self-worthiness or self-love through what we're going to observe into our family.
So that sort of example that we've seen, the nurturing or lack of that we've experienced up until age 7 affects us into our adulthood and our relations.
Absolutely. Even for myself, I got to experience it myself before really getting to give some guidance to people as well.
For those who are listening, we want you to be a part of the discussion. I think there's a need for us to be more positive, to be united as a society, to focus more on how we are alike instead of emphasizing the differences that we see in culture, our heritage, our history, our nationality, our ethnicity, our economic status, our education. We highlight these things, but in the end of the day, we're citizens. We're hopefully civil.
Well, I think, it's important also to accept.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much pushing away those negative feelings that you're having, And this is also how we got conditioned, right? And there's also something called toxic positivity. So from the moment we really accept, we free ourselves from toxicity. So it's really embracing the part of light and darkness, you know, like we are also like those two faces of a same coin. Yeah. So it's normal. We have that part of shadow. We've got that part of light.
The yin and the yang.
Yeah, and negative emotions, I mean, they are there to tell us something, you know, but we got conditioned to push those emotions aside. You know, it's like, oh, don't feel bad. Don't feel angry. Don't feel upset. Like, why not? You know, like you have to embrace it. It's telling you something, you know, it's telling you maybe you should consider a different approach, or it's there. Failure does not exist. It's just like something that is there to teach you the right way to do things.
But you are right. We tend to, when people feel those emotions, the anger, the hurt, the pain, they feel sometimes disconnected for something. So not to use it in a clinical form, but they feel depressed, they feel sad. We ask them to suck it up, buttercup, you know, move on. And yet that may be doing more harm than good long term.
What do you think?
Was that rhetorical? All right. We want you to join us if you wish to be a part of a discussion. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. I think the importance of having these discussions, of getting people to tap into the positive side of who they are, to recognize that there's more to life than just the labor and the toils over a day, that there's joy, that there's positivity, that it doesn't mean that you are oblivious or ignorant to the plights and the perils and all the trials and tribulations. It just means that you desire more. Those walls, as we speak to Stephanie dos Santos, those emotional walls we put between the heart and the brain. We see many people challenged with their relations, parent to child, spouse to spouse, you know, friend to friend, to build these walls to protect themselves.
Yeah, well, most of the time we're even unaware of those walls. And that's why we experience repetitive patterns and sometimes toxic patterns, you know, if it's about those walls.
But those walls can easily be erected, but seemingly take time to deconstruct.
Yes, they can be. Like if you allow an experience to affect you to the core, you know, you're going to want to protect yourself so bad that, you know, like you haven't obviously healed that thing. It all comes down to acceptance. You know, like from the moment you accept whatever has happened, you're not allowing this to have an impact onto you.
What about trust and honesty? Where does that play into this?
Trust and honesty. Well, you can't give what you don't have. So if you want trust, you have to trust yourself. If you want honesty, you have first to be really honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself at 50%, you'll be able to be honest, you know, at only 50% with others.
You can't give what you don't have.
Absolutely.
So to thine own self be true. It's something that I've heard a long time ago.
Yeah, being true to yourself, embracing all aspects of yourself. That's why, you know, like pushing negative emotions away and saying, oh, come on, like, look at that. You've got everything to be grateful for. It's no.
But even, so if we look at where we are in the world, and even if we were just to isolate ourselves, right, and in the Cayman context, there would probably be very few people, if any, that would say, well, you have everything to be grateful for. Look at over there, less crime here than there. Yeah. Look at over there, you know, they can't move around after dark. Partly the boogeyman comes out after dark or something. But it's relative.
Yeah, because this is a perfect example to show that happiness is to be found within. Because you can have absolutely everything you want, and you know, like you don't touch into your inner happiness by filling yourself up with external things. It's all temporary.
But we do that. We fill ourselves up with these things. There's this void that we're trying to fill, and we seek happiness with the faster car, the bigger boat, or the new award, or maybe it's the contribution that we've made to something, and yet we're denying ourselves happiness.
Well, you say that word, the void that we have.
Yeah.
This is an illusion.
Okay.
this is an illusion. If we believe that we have to take something from others in order to be happy, it's codependency. We have everything within ourselves. We just got conditioned, and we are so deeply conditioned with it, that we keep looking outside for answers and thinking that we need this or that to fill the void inside of us.
Yeah. My uncle always talked about mind over matter. Yeah. He genuinely believed that the power of the mind.
Yeah.
I can do it. You talked just then that, freedom comes from the mindset. So this void, how do we then find within ourselves? I can imagine some people listening now will be struggling to say about what this is, and they'll fill in some nice, colorful words to describe it, and it'll end up being of the same ilk. Oh, this is nonsense. But can you truly be happy by looking within? And can you bring that out so that it not only impacts you positively, but those around you? That the joy you see on your face is genuine?
Absolutely. Give it a try. You see, the more you let go of labels, expectations, and find your inner happiness, the higher your vibration gets. It's becoming magnetic, because you're not interacting with people because you want something from them.
Okay.
So how they can do that, mind over matter, it's about getting in control of the mind to start with. It's like which part of your mind what part of you is in control of your mind most of the time. And most of the time it's conditionings, or it's past experiences, past traumas. So that's why it's important to allow the heart, to guide what's going on into your mind.
Okay. We're going to pause and take a short break. When we come back, something that came to mind. We are a sum of our experiences. That's what we've heard. And maybe we can talk about it. Maybe we can get into an area of, so how do we find this level of joy and happiness, this inner peace, so that it presents itself with greater positivity? Maybe we can explore that when we come back.
Absolutely.
All right. Stefano dos Santos is our guest. I invite you to be a part of the discussion. Give us a shout, 949-8037, or toll free with the compliments of Flo at 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Avernale Zini Foster Scott, 1915 to 2001. Miss Zini was born on Cayman Brac to Captain Bertie and Huldah Foster, the eldest of 7 children. From a young age, she helped her parents rear her younger siblings. In 1933, she married Captain Clyde Scott. Together, Miss Zini and Captain Clyde, along with their 9 children, raised cattle and crops, exported coconuts and thatch rope, owned and operated a general store, gasoline pump, and soft drink bottling plant, and were pioneers in the heavy equipment business, having established Scott Development Company in 1964. Although she had only a primary education, her natural leadership, business acumen, integrity, honesty, and ambition made her one of Cayman Brac's most successful women. Miss Zina worked in her office and until her early 80s and continued to sign the company's checks until a few weeks before her death. She was recognized by the Cayman Islands Real Estate Brokers Association in 1995 and received the Distinguished Woman Award from the Minister of Women's Affairs in 1999. Shortly before her death, she was awarded the Certificate and Badge of Honor.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette, brought to you by the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
The La Masque Dinner Show, an elegant evening of fine dining, live entertainment, and more at the Kimpton Seafire Resort, Saturday, June 5th, 7 p.m. to midnight. Tickets are just $150 each on eventpro.ky or visit Les Classiques to book a table of 10. Proceeds to benefit the HSA's dialysis unit. The La Masque Dinner Show, a signature Badabanoo event, June 5th at the Kimpton Seafire Resort. See you there.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. We want listeners to maybe share in the positivity. There's so much negativity in the world. There's so much harm and hurt. So much that is, in our sense, is almost beyond our control because of the external factors. And when we look globally, we're probably feeling a bit despondent. There's a sense of despair. There are people who are feeling as if they're disconnected, not just from their families physically, but emotionally. And even from their own, they just discontent that they feel within, and they're not sure what it is, and then it translates into a sense of despair and hopelessness. But a positive lady like Stephanie dos Santos, I think, when you, Horacio introduced me to it, the collective, consciousness came on that you are championing. It reminds us that Cayman is and can be that beacon for us within the shore, but to shine so brightly, to the outside world.
I've been talking to a lot of people here in Cayman, and you can feel that people want to start looking elsewhere than the places they've been looking at, for so far.
Mm-hmm.
So, I believe collective consciousness, Cayman, is something that will bring a lot to Cayman and Caymanians.
Yeah, I think the minute we start to embrace who we are, what we have, and to a great respect, what I think is required of us, not only to respect the sacrifices and services of the generations past, or to meet the expectations of what we may have for future, but to be able to embrace and enjoy it now. Because no man is promised tomorrow. Maybe a woman is, but no man is promised tomorrow.
Well, you see, you said the answer in your question. It's about being present, being in the now, and the issue that we have is that we are so distracted all the time that we are lost touch with how we think and how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have to look everywhere, like people are on their phones all the time, or even with kids, it's actually quite sad to see that, like if you try to remove a phone from a kid, the tantrum that is, that's going on, this is actually sad and shows that it's a change needs to happen there.
Yeah.
And from the moment that you cut distractions and you start tapping into how you feel, your breathing, what's going on, it's actually very uncomfortable to start with because the mind is addicted to those distractions. So if you want to start becoming more aware of your thoughts and wanting to tap into your inner power, which is being able to manifest the life that you want, you have to be willing to say no to distraction and being a bit uncomfortable by sitting with yourself and allowing whatever comes up to rise and to address.
But as I listen to you, the notion that just enjoying now, living in the present, I did not think that was so difficult. And I thank a friend recently for allowing me to appreciate how important it is and to be able to do that. Not that we don't have plans for the future, or we don't have aspirations and goals and desires and things that we want down the road, but have we sat to watch the sunset, to watch the moon come up? Have we sat and poured a tea and just enjoyed the companionship and the company?
Yeah, and checking also, like when you watch the sunset, start to detach yourself from yourself and watch, like I'm watching the sunset, but where is my head at? And often you're like, okay, then I'm going to eat that, then I'm going to prepare this, and then I'm going to have to prepare for tomorrow. Like it's really about being conscious. I'm watching the sunset, I'm absorbing my senses. My senses are taking that in. My mind is quiet.
You said it, and I may want to repeat it many times. It's a mindset. But there are those of us for whom, just as you shared, we take a quiet moment to plan. We think we're sitting down, but we're talking about, what that project is going to look like coming up. If we got children or a spouse or siblings or everything else is happening, but we're not being conscious in the moment to enjoy the sunset, for example, or to sit and maybe it's a book that we've been trying to read, and it will take us usually 5 minutes, but it's been 5 weeks and we haven't even got off the first sentence. We're not present and enjoying the moment. Is that so difficult to do?
Well, lots of people think that being present means, but how am I meant to plan in the future then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is when you're actually really connected to the now, that you get to receive wonderful ideas, and that you get to get that inner guidance, your intuition telling you, okay, that's the next step I have to take.
Mm-hmm.
But like for the book, the example of the book, well, Einstein said that it's madness to hope at different results by doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the challenge, is to break the cycle, those habits that we have. Like how many people wake up in the morning and just jump on their phone right away? Do you know how challenging it is to actually keep your phone on flight mode, and as you wake up to resist the temptation of taking the flight mode off?
But you said, Einstein, third conditioning earlier, I thought Pavlov. The greatest experiment may be the bell rings, eventually the dog salivates, whether food is there or not. The flight mode on the phone. How many of us would actually have the courage to turn the phone on flight mode or to turn it off when we go to bed, whether we're sleeping 8 hours or we're only getting 2 hours sleep? That, for some, would be akin to them being locked away in some dungeon.
Yeah, but you see, that's the addiction there.
Mm-hmm.
The addiction to that distraction. Or am I going to miss out on something, or a call, or...
Mm. But is it then, too, that we're seeing the developers and the programmers using algorithms to impact the brain as to how we swipe and when we swipe, and the addictiveness to condition us?
Yeah.
And then the expectation of our colleagues or friends. Hey, I sent you a message. I called you. Why didn't you respond? And then...
Well, also, we probably need to review communication and, being really clear and communicate clearly as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, my surrounding knows that as soon as when I get the message, I will answer when I can, so they don't get offended if it takes sometimes an hour because I'm in a meeting or anything. I was well, I get back to you when I can,
Yeah. But then you are right, and for those who are listening, I think this is good help for us, because I think oftentimes we will go to the physician, we may take a pill if that's what's prescribed, but we never address the
core.
Yeah. We may go to a financial planner, get some good advice. We may or may not implement it. We'll probably go to the dietitian and nutritionist, the personal trainer. We'll do all these things. We get the advice. But we rarely look at the mind, the spiritual journey, the wholeness and the well-being, the holistic approach. And yet it's right before us because it affects us in every which way.
Well, I think because we got so conditioned to meet everybody's expectations, we don't have boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a key point, it's to be able to set boundaries as well.
But that word itself, boundaries, and I'm going to write it down because I'm going to look at it a couple of times. That even sounds like a negative word to some people.
You got bound.
But it's important, right, to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Maybe you didn't allow me. Think of people standing in a line, for instance. They're all peaceful, they're all civil. Maybe there's no conversation. That's a different story. There are some people that will stand closer to others, even though they're not connected, and that person is okay with that. Then there are others who will say, well, wait a minute, I have a personal space, you're a little bit too close. And you can watch them pivot and shift so that they make sure that their personal boundary and their space is sort of preserved and protected. But the boundaries that we should have, relative to our disclosure information, relative to being able to take a respite now and again and recharge, sort of unwind.
Well, yeah, just an example with my friends, when they talk and they need help, or I said to them, the way I said to them as well, it's before coming in.
Mm-hmm.
dumping, if I can say, like negativity. It's to ask the questions. Are you in the right state of mind to actually receive what I'm going to tell you? This is an example of setting like a healthy boundary that needs to be respected. So if I need to speak because we need to speak to think, I'm going to reach out to my friend and I'm going to ask her, like, is it okay? I need to vent, I need to speak to think. Are you in the state to receive that? And if it's no, well, like I respect that, because at the end of the day, if I don't communicate this, she will just take on her. It's going to impact her as well, and she's going to feel upset, like unconsciously maybe developing some resentment because that was the last thing she needed to hear because she's got already enough on her plate. So it's just little examples on how we interact with one another.
Many of us will have a friend or someone that we confide in. We may pay for counseling. We may have other resources that we draw on, even reading. But it seems that we're not willing to look within ourselves. Are we able and capable, and if so, should we individually, independently take time to reflect, to think, and to sort of re-energize and decompress, as a friend calls it?
It's a choice, and it goes with willingness to bring that change. And the mind is quite tricky. It takes 90 days to really implement a new habit and have that like in your long-term memory, or for it to become a lifestyle. 90 days.
3 months.
So that's why, like it's, people say, oh, I'm going to go to the gym, it's New Year's resolution, and you end up giving up. And also because the intention is important as well. When it's about, I'm going to go to the gym after all those celebrations, it comes down to people most of the time hating their bodies. So if it's this intention, it's...
So the wrong motivation to start with.
Yeah.
Right.
Like if you shift that and you say, well, this is really a new life that I want for myself. I want a strong body. I want to be the best version that I can be. And you really feel that into your heart. The intention is pure, so you're going to maintain that.
I think, too, that's one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing now on a personal level, that understanding the conditioning, whether it's good or bad, to recognize that it takes a repetitive pattern over a prolonged period, and that becomes part of who you are. Our young people now will probably grow to wear masks because that's what they know. We'll be, physically distant because that's what we've been sort of conditioned to do. Not speaking to whether it's good or bad, it just becomes the norm. That communication interaction that we used to have may no longer exist because that is the world we're in.
Yeah, but you see, like if you said the word as well, like patterns. So we're going to keep repeating that. What is the common factor with all those experiences that you had? It's similar. It's you.
So to that own self be true, you can impact and influence
Absolutely. If you are the common factor of all those experiences that all turned out to be the same, if there is something in your unconscious mind that has attracted the situations. And until we take that part of responsibility to reflect in ourselves, okay, what is in me that has attracted that and keeps attracting it? Well, if we don't do that, we keep repeating it again and we place ourselves as victims.
Yeah.
But we are not victims. At any time, you can claim your power back and say, okay, since I'm the common factor, let's address it.
All right. Well, when we come back from the break, maybe we can talk about reclaiming our power and the like, as we invite a discussion and a conversation. 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-TALK. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences. The West Bay Action Committee is holding a meeting this Wednesday at 7 p.m. at the Papagayo Restaurant to formulate a plan for a West Bay District Committee. All are invited to attend and contribute. That's a meeting held by the West Bay Action Committee this Wednesday, 7 p.m. at Papagayo Restaurant.
Hi, I'm remodeling our bathroom. I have a few questions.
Sure.
What are some ideas to make my bathroom feel larger? How do I know if I'm picking the right vanity? How do I choose a new toilet or a new countertop? Also, the lighting is terrible. Can I put a window or a skylight? And do I really need an exhaust fan?
You've come to the right place. At Brand Source, we custom design kitchen and baths, and our talented design team can help answer your questions. Whether you're looking for a modern, functional family bathroom or a luxurious personal retreat, we'll help create that beautiful space that makes your home yours. And if you're in a rush for a new look and have a limited budget, our ready-to-install bathroom vanities, built with solid wood and countertops of the finest materials, are a quick and easy remodeling solution.
For the very best in custom-designed kitchens and baths, visit Brand Source Home Gallery on Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park, Cayman's Kitchen and Bath Center.
The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan. We're here for you. Please be advised that the pension contribution holiday has been extended until 30th of June 2021. Employers and plan members should ensure arrangements are in place for salary deductions and remittance following this date. The Cayman Islands Chamber of Commerce Pension Plan, keeping you informed. For further information, visit chamberpensions.ky, and for information as it happens, follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Email admin@pensions.ky or call 745-7630. We're here for you.
Radio Cayman News.
This week, we saw the first COVID-19 briefing with the new government.
We are imploring all of our fellow residents to attend the One Roberts Vaccination Centre.
Huge opportunity we have to get vaccinated.
1.1 billion people have had a vaccine dose already, and the time for waiting is really over.
Radio Cayman. Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And as you're listening, perhaps we can reflect on the positivity in our lives, that there are times when we don't feel as energized and enthusiastic. There are times when we feel that the world is against us and nothing good can come of this. But we either draw on scripture and spirituality, we'll meditate, or we'll see someone that we see is positive, and we find a way. But I think we need to look within. So Stephanie Dos Santos reminds us, the collective consciousness came on. Just that in itself reminds us of the importance of what we have in this space and in this time, and the need, absolute need, to be the very best that we can be, the very best of ourselves. We expect more from others, but what do we expect of ourselves?
Well, do we actually ask ourselves the question?
So what if we did? What if we were asked that question? First off, would others see us as, he or she thinks that they're better than anybody else? They, as you look at yourself and you want to raise your own self-worth and self-being, would they see that as a positive thing and embrace it, or will they be cutting and condemning?
So first, there's this duality, and one doesn't go without the other one, negative and positive. Because without pain, you will not know what joy feels like. So
if as I listen to you, I recognize that we sometimes will look at art and we see the yin and yang. We may read things, or we may just hear with it, appreciate it. But as you just shared, you have the negative, you have the positive. Rarely is there one thing in a vacuum. It has to come as part of many other things. So to that person who consciously now listening and say, well, I know I can be better. I know I want to be better. If it is that they want a promotion and they need to pass an examination to get a qualification, they'll probably apply themselves. But what about being better, the person?
Well, it's first to identify what are our labels that we put onto ourselves.
Okay.
Because if you want to be better, which means raising your vibration, goes with letting go of labels that you have and that are limiting yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, we let people put labels on us. We even, as you shared, put labels, the person's name, if they wrote a letter, for instance, and they sign it, and all of their titles and degrees and awards and everything goes after. That in itself is a label to sort of, for some, lend a sense of credibility and respectability. But then they may be labeled by others as well, and they live sort of to that label, and then they're confined to that box.
Can't really be truly happy, right? And I think this is how we end up like looking outside for validations of those labels. But if you want to get out of it, become aware of the labels you have that you put onto yourself as well. And then you can really start addressing things from the core.
Or some of us then would even try to maybe diminish the impact that are labeled by humor. We may realize that we do it, but we don't see it as being that thing that devalues us because we're doing it to ourselves. We may not necessarily allow others to assign a label. But isn't the net result the same? That joy, that happiness that comes within is suppressed because we no longer see the true value of who we are.
Well, you give your power away, right? You allow the others to define you, and you identify yourself to that label. You've got the choice. You either take it or live it.
But again, I keep thinking that this is a conscious, deliberate, very, very deliberately conscious effort to improve our self-worth, our self-esteem, and to move. But then in spaces, whether it's our work colleagues or even our closest family and friends, when they see that you're making an adjustment to be better, to bring joy to you and then therefore to those around you, they're not always as accommodating or as embracing as maybe you think they should be.
Do they need to? Because at the end of the day, if you do things right for you, you know, it can only have a positive impact on your surrounding. The way afterwards people respond to it is not your responsibility. Because you know you're doing what's right for you at heart. You know, and you can never regret the things that you do with your heart.
But the heart versus the brain.
Yeah.
There's a tug of war at times. The logical versus the emotional.
Well, we've got our lower mental detecting what's going on into our brain. You know, like that's why it's important to really understand, like, okay, where is this coming from? Is it from a conditioning, from my label? Is it because this is what's expected of me?
But then those expectations, are they not what sort of drive us or sometimes confine us and limit us as well?
Absolutely.
So whether it's the parent, deliberately or unconsciously, you know, projecting perhaps a desire for the child to do something, to be somebody, to attain a certain qualification or profession, to...
Yeah. Well, you see, it's funny you're talking about that because I was reflecting on my story, right? And when my dad is a Portuguese immigrant, came to France, you know, with his parents, without speaking a word of French. And when I grew up and I became a teenager, I thought, okay, I need to know what I'm going to do in life. And I wanted to be a stylist. And when I talked to my dad and I said, my parents, I remember talking to my dad and I say, Papa, I want to do that school, you know, with art and stuff. He looked at me and he said, watch me. Do I look like Christian Dior or Chanel to you? I'm like, well, no. He's like, well, you're going to do a job that is going to give you money. So unconsciously what I got from it, it's that doing what I love is not worthy. And that if I do what I love, I'm not going to be worthy of the love of my father. So I study law. I was like really bored, like, yeah. And I quit it. But yeah, this is how without realizing, you know, we get conditions and especially on our love beliefs. And we think, okay, I have to do that so I'll be worthy of the love of my mom or my father. And we put our dreams and our calling aside.
I think we can see that a lot in people who pursue the arts, for instance. You know, it could be a great painter, sculptor, or poet, as it were. But if it's not going to make money, it's not going to bring a level of recognition and value then and there, it doesn't have any value.
What do you think that art is something to do on the side? Because we grew up thinking, oh, art stuff, no. You do that on the side.
Yeah.
Why not doing it like for a living? And this is how, if you manage to drop all those fears and what's expected from you and those belief system, and you're not allowing it to be part of you, then you can really tap into your heart, get that guidance on what to create next, and it's going to get so channeled that people will respond to it. People respond to art because, there's something there. There's an energy into it, when the person has been doing things with their hearts, you can feel it. You feel a connection with the piece.
And that maybe is what we're lacking, the connection to others, to our calling, but the unwillingness to embrace this thing that has been a yearning within us for so long. The biggest perhaps piece of poetry or music sometimes is from the emotive part. It may come from a time when the person is feeling a particular emotion, but yet it's suppressed.
Yeah, because we listen with our mind instead of listening through our heart as well. Or we hear or we see with the brain instead of seeing through the heart. It's kind of like, trying to analyze proportions. Oh, no, this is,
Yeah. It is perhaps in that interesting time in human history that we look at things and we've been perhaps for the first time in a long time, maybe not unlike the Renaissance, where we're willing to embrace the change and the challenges that lie ahead for ourselves as well as for society and for our children as they go off for the study, that it isn't just the academic and the profession, but there is much value that can be added by them being happy and finding joy in what they're doing. My good friend tells us we have a short break to take. When we do, we'll continue, and maybe I invite you to share with us some more, because it's the travels that inform our experiences. It's the experiences that bring us to a space where we can share, our life story, as it were, to help other people to appreciate that, nothing new under the sun, and your thing that you're experiencing isn't just you. It's others too that have made.
We are so connected.
Yeah. Everybody
is interconnected. There's nothing random with the people that we attract in our lives as well.
All right. Well, maybe we can speak about that. It's not. All right. 949-8037. DJ Silver Fox is right there. So give us a shout and share your thoughts.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences.
Explore your history. Explore your land. Explore your sister islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your sister islands.
Discover all that our sister islands have to offer. Want your kids to gain social skills, independence, self-confidence indoors? King's Sports Centre Art of Fun Summer Camp is the solution.
Make memories.
Learn new skills and life skills.
Activities include
basketball, football, dodgeball,
arts and crafts,
squash, drama,
kids aerobics,
bowling, and much more. King Sports Centre Art of Fun Summer Camp will be held from July 6th through August 6th. Monday to Friday from 8:30 a.m. until 5 p.m. Camp includes all activities, 1 lunch,
and 2 breaks.
The early bird special ends
on May 31st.
For more information, call 946-5464 or email
kings@candw.ky.
Your one-stop facility for fitness, recreation, relaxation.
At Subway, we know a meal isn't quite complete without a side, and that's why we're introducing waffle fries. Subway's waffle fries are oven-baked softness with extra crispy edge, giving a satisfying taste to be enjoyed as is or in any of Subway's dipping sauces. Order waffle fries as a side item for $2 or make it a meal deal. Subway, eat fresh.
For 32 years, the Cayman Islands National Dance Company have performed well-received shows for enthusiastic audiences. For our 33rd season, we're grateful for the support, the dedicated dancers, and sacrifices made. So without further ado, Cayman Islands National Dance Company presents Gratitude. Gratitude celebrates over 3 decades of performances, both established and new dances. Gratitude is a must-see. June 5th and 6th at Hartwell Theatre. Get your tickets today at Radiance Dance Studio, at the door, or call 926-1826. Sponsored by Caribbean Utilities Company, ARC Directors, Vi's Closet, and Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And truly appreciate Ms. Stephanie Dos Santos for taking her time, for accepting the invitation to join us, and with our discussion to get people to appreciate. I mean, today, for instance, there's the full moon out. Whether that will affect the fishing and the tides, whether that'll affect people's moods and they're conscious of it or not, people might just feel out of sorts and don't even appreciate that there may be a connection.
Well, we are nature.
Dust to dust, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we are nature. So a healthy relationship with yourself is also a secret relationship with nature.
Our therapists and counselors, our lifestyle coaches, and so many talk about mindfulness and mental well-being and health and the like. And I think gradually we're starting to get to a space where the ancients understood that. You have to be present. You have to have a strong mindset and be healthy in mind so that the body can enjoy but also heal.
Yeah, and operate at its maximum potential.
The mind over matter.
Yeah.
But from that though, when we think of life, and it's interesting, a 15-year-old, for instance, probably knows everything, has all the answers. Maybe it's a 13-year-old now or 11-year-old. And at 50 and at 60, you're starting to have experienced life. You're starting to understand the things, and what we say, I wish I knew then what I knew now. What if you know it, you know it because you've experienced it.
Yeah.
That's some of life's experiences. Says that's what makes us who we are, the good, the bad, and the embraced. Can we shape some of that going forward as we live in the present to navigate more positively some of the outcomes?
Well, yeah, I think from the moment we start judging what's going on or what's happening to us, and starting to flow with the universe and whatever is brought to us, because like when you look back, you want to call you can say God or the universe, but the God always had your back so far, right? So why even doubting or being so worried all the time? We trapped into our minds, like worrying about work, worrying about money, worrying about let go. Like just to realize that we've got this, like God or universe having our back all the time, because this is how we made it so far. Well, relax, take the time. You've got that safety net, if I can say.
It's interesting you say that, and I don't say this to offend anyone, and I speak only to Caymanians, if they would allow me just for a second, and only to the Cayman context, simply because maybe I'll offend less people. But if this is a Bible reading Christian society that subscribes to the scriptures, it talks about what are you worrying about it? Don't worry about this, don't worry about that. It doesn't help anything. Look at the birds and the trees, and we know the scripture, we repeat it, we understand it. That worry doesn't bring anything, and yet we don't have that faith, that level of confidence, as you said, that God, the universe, has your back.
Well, very often, like humans need to be confronting to a wall to start considering something different. And this is often in massive distress that people start considering opening the eyes or considering something else. Experiencing different mindset, or saying, okay, come on, life cannot be just all about that. There must be something else. And then this is how you have people starting to pray a little bit more, and then where the prayers start to take a different perspective to it.
But that prayer, that meditation, that mindfulness, that quiet time, they are able to then focus on the present and put things in perspective. And is it then that through that prayer, the vibrations, the thoughts, I'm talking about noetics and the like, that'll bring them back. Good goes out, good comes back.
Yeah. I mean, it's like doing a prayer or meditating, you have to really tap into your heart center. You have to feel it. You have to be anchored in the now and say it. And if you do it well, this is how you feel peace within yourself, because you're anchored in the now. You're setting an intention.
If I may then ask you, and only if it's appropriate and opportune, there are many people globally, but right here as well, who feel a lot of turmoil. They're anxious and apprehensive about their financial situation, their employment situation, maybe their health, and all of these negative things and thoughts, and all these things that they don't necessarily want to embrace or can't. And they're going, yeah, but as the words, I mean, look at my reality. My reality is this, and this, and it's not all good. How do we help them?
Well, it's really like to each individual it's very different. So it's really about sitting with the person and getting them to share. And as they share, it's become easy with years, because I've been doing that for a few years, to really pick up on the patterns and where it comes from. And very often it's conditionings,
Yeah.
It's limiting belief system, it's self-worthiness issues, or it's, if we keep struggling for money or for work, or have to go back, into conditionings, how you grew up, what did you see, or what was the experiences that you're now holding on to that label within yourself. And all this is happening into the unconscious mind.
Yeah. So it could be conscious or unconscious conditioning.
Very often it's unconscious, and that's why we feel victim, and that's why we feel trapped. And I've been through that as well. Like with my challenges, I'm thinking, why do I keep attracting this type of people? Why? Why I've got those situations with work in the past, and it's...
We gravitate to the familiar. We sort of attract the things that we know and we recognize it.
Well, we've got a program. It's kind of like when you get born, you've got a clean software, and as you grow up from 0 to 7, then you get that programming on, and then you're going to operate all your life on that programming, unless you become aware of it and you choose to deprogram and just program whatever works for you. But that requires self-awareness.
But then you've been conditioned all along, so you don't maybe recognize that this thing is not the norm because it's what you know.
Yeah, but I think self-awareness comes with asking yourself the question why all the time. Why do I like that? Why do I do this? Why do I reach out for that? Why do I feel anxious? Why? You have to break it down,
But as you say why, I think many of us would think to the young child when they go through that phase, why? They're questioning, they're wanting to know, and they will need a valid explanation. Are we then doing a disservice to them? Because we don't satisfy them, we pacify them, but we never satisfy their knowledge and thirst for...
You just touch a conditioning there. I remember also as well asking, why, Papa, why, Mama? They say, because it's like that.
Because I told you so.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
Well, then afterwards, what happening? We just give up on questioning, and we just accept what it is for what it is.
Okay.
But it's important to get back in touch, with how we think and how we feel.
But if you fast forward to a time that the child now is maybe not an adolescent, maybe at some point in school, and the child is asking why. The child is, I'll use the word demanding answers. There are questions as to why it's this way, why can't it be this way. Probably in many school systems, we will look at that child as disruptive. We may be almost polite and say precocious, but we don't necessarily embrace that child because the child is interrupting the lesson plan.
Yeah. That's true. But I mean, I've worked with kids as well. And, when we get out, as kids, we always ask, we're shocked because it's not natural to hate each other. And did you hear like most of adults' answers when kids ask like, why do people hate each other?
Mm-hmm.
Say, well, it's like that, like not everybody can like everybody. Well, if we go a little bit deeper, it's fear. It's fear. It's fear of what we don't know. We tend to, when we fear, we tend to want to destroy or to want to change, like into what we believe is best for them. But who are we anyway in the first place to know what's best for them? Yeah. What's best for me is not what's best for you. You on your life path, you might need to go through other experiences before getting to that point. But if we explain that's fear, very like, there's no different way, right? It's like either love or fear. That, like people that are like very, like some people say evil or whatever. It's the absence of light. It's the absence of love. It's fearful. It's fear that makes them behave this way.
Something to think about, because we think fear, we think people who don't have courage. People courageous, we say they're fearless, but yet the fear paralyzes us.
Yeah, we still have fear. Even when you do stuff and you overcome that, it doesn't mean that the fear is gone.
Right.
I still do stuff and feeling the fear. It's just a choice. Like, do I allow those fears to take over me or not?
Okay. So it doesn't paralyze, but it propels us. All right. Well, we have this news break. When we come back, we can delve into it. What does the fear do to us? Can it make us better? Or does it take us, to a path of consciousness? All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Follow Radio K-Man on Twitter. All the latest information, breaking news, community events, and more. Follow us at twitter.com/Radio K-Man.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man. Your voice, your choice.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio K-Man's newsroom.
Today's biggest news.
The Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Minister for Tourism and Transport, visited Cayman Brac on Friday to tour the departments and statutory authorities which fall under his ministry's area of responsibility. Mr. Bryan said that he is pleased that the number of staycations to Cayman Brac have been on the rise, giving the sister islands a chance to, quote, thrive in an unexpected new line of business generated from Grand Cayman. Mr. Bryan says he plans to visit the sister islands regularly and hopes to create a sustainable plan for future growth on Cayman Brac. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. 3 people have been arrested in Italy over Sunday's cable car accident that left 14 dead. Investigators say the emergency brakes have been disabled and the 3 members of the operating company were aware. According to transport official there, the brake failure meant the car was traveling at over 62 miles per hour when the cable broke. And police in the U.S. state of New Hampshire have issued an active arrest warrant for singer Marilyn Manson in connection with assault charges. 52-year-old Manson is accused of 2 counts of Class A misdemeanor simple assault involving a videographer during a concert in Guilford in 2019. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
For the latest in news and information,
follow Radio K-Man on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio K-Man app or log on to our website, radiokman.gov.ky.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I'm hoping that this, benefits you as much as it is, for me. The idea that we can look within to find the energy, the positivity, to not just project and present, but actually be that person that sees life and embraces it, loves and shares and laughs and learns. Stephanie Dos Santos, thanks for sharing with us. I think too many times we don't see the good, even though there's more good than bad. But when we do we embrace it? Do we champion it and celebrate it? I wonder sometimes. Conditioning maybe causes us to see the negative and the bad, the evil.
Yeah, and I think we just we need to become more aware of what's going on. I think it feels like we're operating like on autopilot all the time.
Yeah. But even our word choices, I like when you share, it's the absence of light. And I think if we were to picture we were coming home at night, a long day at work, and for whatever reason our house is in darkness, we turn on the light. Right?
Yep.
But so it's not that the house is necessarily
evil.
You just haven't had a light on.
Yeah.
But
it's the same for us.
Yeah.
If you start tapping into your heart energy or just get rid of distractions, then you start bringing the light into your inner home.
I was reflecting on something, and maybe I can ask you for guidance. But I think too many times we rush through life. We live on an island, and there are probably still some people who may have a perception that everybody's in a grass hut, that we sit on the coconut trees and enjoy life. But yet, for the first few days or weeks, or maybe even some may even last a few years, when they first come to Cayman, they relax, they enjoy it. But in short order, they get caught up, in their words, in the hustle and the bustle. It's like living in a big city, they say. And we forget the importance of living peaceful, living in a life where you're appreciative of what happens. And then sometimes we see others that we will say, oh, look at that person, not a care nor concern. But yet that person is happy. They may not have all the titles ascribed to them. We may have, unfortunately maligned them by our mislabels. So then let me then ask, and when we look at the whole context of what it is to be living in the Cayman context, and the notion that as we're here, I think the need to stop and reflect and enjoy. Go to the beach, not because it's a birthday party, but because of what? The taste and smell of the salt air and the feel of the sand is good for the soul.
Absolutely, because we are nature. So if we feel like we lost touch with ourselves, you go to nature. It's going to help you getting that bond back with yourself.
Okay. If you think, right, to people, let's just use the executive, in school at a certain age, she's active, playing sports and the like. And as she gets older, or he, as the age goes up, the level of activity goes down. So there's this growing disparity between age and activity. Then something happens in life where maybe it's a health scare or something else. All of a sudden now we have a life coach, we have a personal trainer, we have a nutritionist, we have the physician. We have all these people saying, oh, you need to be more active, to trying to align this thing that for the last 40 years or more has been on a trajectory where they're running, one in one direction and one in the complete opposite. And then we want to bring them back, as opposed to running along constantly. As you age, you still remain active. How do we put the mind and the body in a space of positive engagement so that we appreciate the beauty of the nature? We appreciate the importance of welcoming the family and friends into our space to celebrate. We sit quietly and reflect and meditate and not be so frustrated by life.
Well, I think we allow it to stress us out like that. Like we get caught into all of this. It's distractions as well.
Okay.
It's a choice to wake up 20 minutes before the alarm and decide to implement something new instead of jumping into on the phone. It's like, I'm going to do like meditation in the morning, or I'm going to do a breathing exercise, because most people that I spoke with, when they wake up, they just wake up right away, and they already, their mind, they're still in bed, and their mind is still already at, okay, what am I going to have to do? I have to go and get a coffee, I have to do that, I have to do that, and those meetings and so on. The time just before you go to bed and the one just when you wake up are so important. They're going to determine the quality of your day. So if you really want to start implementing changes in your life, you have to start with yourself. And it's commitment as well. So do it for at least a month already and see the benefits of it. Just 1 week. 1 week, not jumping onto your phone and setting the intentions for the day. Even if it's just about staying calm, avoiding to feel anxiety. Set that intention as you're doing breathing exercise, when you're in bed, a hand on your tummy, the other one on your chest, and observe the breathing. And you're going to get back into the now, and then afterwards you can set the intention.
As you say that, I think that sometimes, if we don't embrace our cultural nuances, if we don't appreciate the things that made us who we are, I think, as you were sharing, back to the older Caymanians who would tell you, the women primarily, but the men as well, as they go to bed, they say their prayers, they reflect on the day, and they relax. And then when they wake up, the first thing that they do, at least that was the practice of, our ancestors, they said their prayers, whatever that was, however that was, a quiet time, and for however long, before they get out of the bed. Now we have the phone, we've been waking up by all sorts of things. You're sharing us that mindset has to return where we're consciously, deliberately trying to reposition ourselves so that we are positive.
Yeah, if you want to get back into that connection with yourself, just cut those distractions on the outside. It's just pollution.
Easier said than done, though.
I know, but you know what? If it was that easy, everybody would be able to meditate, tap into their heart center, interact with one another peacefully, avoiding judgment and so on. At the end of the day, it all comes down to, what do you want? Do you really want to feel bad, to feel good? Because there's also some people that are addicted to what's going on negative in their lives.
Huh. Is it then that addiction, in a sense, is what propels them? Many people say, I strive on stress. It's only when it's stressful. Maybe it's not as helpful and healthy as they think, but it works.
It's fear-based anyway. Like I knew someone that was it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fear of even trying something different, because like we like what's comfortable.
Right.
When the only permanent things is change, that's part of the problem as well.
Change is the only constant.
Yeah.
If I might, in closing our discussion, go back to where we started: love, self-love, love for others, and we recognize that in the English language, there's one word, love, many connotations. In Greek and there are different types of love. The love you express for, one thing versus a person, or a type of love for one person versus another. So we get that. But in that sense of love and the walls that we build around us to protect ourselves, bad experiences not going to happen again. So do we consciously put up those walls? And if so, are we aware that we have those walls up to avoid bringing people too close to us? Because then we get connected.
Yeah, I mean, I went through that as well, like putting those walls and thinking, well, I'm going to be very guarded, but thinking like that is because it's not healed yet, or it's something, a part that I haven't addressed yet. Because if we really want love, we have to jump into the deep end as well and trust. But it starts with yourself,
trust
right?
In yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Trusting that.
I'm not saying you have to jump into whatever relationship with closed eyes and and trust fully and so on.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't be foolish, but be trusting of what you feel and sense.
Yeah, and establishing also, what is it that I really want? What type of relationship in any areas do I want to build?
Maybe for another time, but I think many times now we look at society and with respect, perhaps our younger people, we see their relationships a bit different from maybe their grandparents. There was a courtship. You had a suitor who had a chaperone who presented in a certain way. That may have been way back then. Now it's maybe a little more casual. People are friends online. People are casual, put it that way. So that changing
kind
dynamic.
Of feel safer, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think we really got conditioned to believe that love is something to be found on the outside, that you have to be loved by your colleague, by your friend, by your boyfriend, girlfriend, and we don't ask ourselves the question, how do I love myself to start with? What type of human being do I want to be? What are my conditionings?
So we tell people, parents tell children, teachers tell students, high self-esteem, that have good self-confidence, have a sense of self-worth. But increasingly we're hearing self-love. Now, is that we're not understanding what that means? I mean,
it feels like it, like everybody heard of those concepts, but how does it really apply to each of you.
Okay. So if you love yourself, you may exercise better in terms of your time and your commitments, the food choices, your desire to sit and read a book.
Yeah, loving yourself, it's being in touch with how you feel, you know, and accepting whatever it is. Accepting that today you feel sad. Today you just feel like, you know, like staying at home and crying and accepting whatever comes, and instead of fighting it. The more we fight something, the more we feed it.
But isn't there a reality that, you know, to some, hearing that last statement, say, well, that's a luxury. I run a company. I have a household of children. I have, you know, other employees who are counting on me.
Well, you know, like going like that and not taking the time for yourself, you know where it's going to lead you. It's going to lead you to tomorrow that is going to be exactly the same day as yesterday. So at some point you have to make a decision.
So the
you
best.
actually, like, you know, decide to take some time off, even just 1 hour for yourself, or eventually your body is going to have a, how do you say when you crash?
A breakdown.
Yeah, you're going to have like a breakdown. Your body is going to push you to stop.
And that may be a physical break of some sort.
Absolutely.
Emotional or otherwise.
Your body speaks, you know, like your body and your soul, everything is so tightly connected.
There are some people who obviously are much more aware of when their body is telling them something, you know.
Yeah.
The athlete may take some sort of injection, otherwise not recommended, to get through the game, to get through the season. May push. There are those who feel this thing happening, their shoulders are tense and tight. There's a, you know, little aching in the temples. They know when they're feeling something, and they know what to do to decompress, to reflect, and to.
Well, if you're in touch with yourself, you're going to intuitively know what you have to do.
But then not many people seem to pay attention. They know
because of those walls, you know, like between your heart / your intuition and your mind.
So those walls are not just between us and others; it's between us and ourselves.
Absolutely. You embrace you learn how to embrace all aspects of yourself. You will be able to embrace other people the same way. It doesn't matter how they are.
All right.
Tagged like as negative or anything. You can just observe without judgment.
Well, you know, we're told to call those things that aren't as if they are. Speak it into being. You know, bring positivity and energy and light. Be willing to acknowledge what is before you with a view of improving. There's a message I got from you today. We can be much better if we're willing to look within.
Absolutely. You know, take that time to cut from distractions, cut from your phone. Don't watch TV. Start doing something different and see how you feel. You know, and whatever works for you, just stick with it. And it's an effort. It's an effort and a commitment. If you want something easy, then it's just going to keep going like that until the end.
All right, nothing good comes easy sometimes, huh?
No,
put in the effort.
You have to, yeah. But trust me, it's extremely rewarding.
All right. Well, this was very grateful that you would take, some time and share with us. Hopefully, people appreciate it. Positive, it takes work, but it is productive, and with it, we can achieve much for ourselves as we help others.
Absolutely, you have to start with you if you want to give to others.
What is it about us? Be the change you want to be. Subscribe to some great thinker. Well, maybe there's some reason in that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your afternoon.
Thank you, Sterling. Thank you, Cayman.
We're going to pause quickly and take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to hear from you. Stephanie has, better things to do. No. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Busy. Feel like there's not just enough hours in the day. Savannah Pharmacy, service to make your life easier. Now you can WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. And pickup is just around the corner with everything your family needs and convenient opening hours including Sundays and holidays. WhatsApp your prescription order to 929-5045. Savannah Pharmacy, wholesome values with modern conveniences. When you're tight on time and budget, but big on flavor, Subway's Meal of the Day hits the spot. Enjoy daily meals on classic sandwiches like tuna, Black Forest ham, meatball marinara, and more. Starting at $6.25 for 6-inch meals and $8.75 for footlongs. You can get Subway's Meal of the Day. Enjoy a different sandwich on a different day for the same price. Mix it up with cookies or chips or waffle fries for the same price. Subway, eat fresh.
I'm looking for a new pizza joint with that perfect crust. My car needs a bit of a tune-up, and my pregnant wife needs something from the pharmacy. So I turned to the printed yellow directory, and in an instant, the pizzas are ordered, the oil change is booked, and the thing that I'm not allowed to say out loud has been purchased for my wife. Problem solved. When you need something quick, do yourself a favor. Flip through the printed yellow directory. Stop searching, start finding. Yellow, we know local.
When I was growing up in Cayman, Sundays was always a big day for our family. Everyone would go to Granny's house for Sunday dinner after church. Even today, I can still smell the aroma of all the delicious food we used to eat, especially the hot, fresh baked bread smothered in butter, topped off with our favorite pan cheese. These days, I don't have enough time to cook and bake, but I do my best to carry on the Sunday tradition of family meals, and being able to get hot, fresh bread with no preservatives or additives from Caribbean Bakery is a big help for me. Shh, don't tell them, they still think I baked it. Caribbean Bakery, now delivering every Sunday to McGrath's grocery store in Eastern Avenue and Marina Drive. Caribbean Bakery, made Cayman fresh.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back, and thanks for joining us. And I'm always grateful when our guests will come in the studio and share. Sometimes we don't appreciate that even the most eloquent and gifted people with the demands and sort of pressures on their time. But I'm very grateful and very much aware that that sort of level of sacrifice and commitment it takes. So thank you for listening, but thank you to our guests. Earlier we had Simon together with his colleague Andrew join us and talk about our Rscs with respect to the upcoming real estate forum on this Friday evening. And then, of course, Stephanie earlier, focusing on the positivity. As we close out the show, I think you will see something that, for me, has been very, very conscious. A friend earlier this morning reminded me that maybe the start of the last quarter in 2019, there was a sense of urgency about my actions, a deliberateness about my endeavors, because it felt like something was changing. I didn't have any premonition. I didn't necessarily look at it with any great foresight or insight to thinking that what would transpire a few months later, would in fact. When the earthquake unfolded, it was weird. I could sense it and feel it. Many of us are like that. We hear stories from our parents and grandparents. The question is, though, how are we going to go about looking at things as positively as we can? Not to ignore nor dismiss the things that are happening that we, at that point in time, really don't feel like we can embrace. Well, maybe you don't have to embrace it at that point, but know that you have the strength, the courage, and the conviction. You don't need to be fearful, because you can endure it. And at some point, look back on it and realize that it is strength in you. Now, if we can draw closer together as a unified society. Yesterday, was it? Yeah, that was Monday. Wow, today's Wednesday already. And speaking to Miss Tiffany Connolly, the idea that we're going to find a strategy. I say May 31st, but in reflection, well, we got a better idea that we want to share with you as we bring about that thing to bring us closer as a people. Or whether we are, like many of us, can trace our ancestral roots back for generations, or whether it's a space and a place that we've only been here for a very short time, or whether we have PR and celebrating a decade of sort of residency. This is our home. Let's work together. This is where we want to make our home, and that for our children, appreciating that we're going to hopefully one day still be able to safely travel and see our friends and family and visit new places, and visit places that we've haven't in a long time but always wanted to return. But being grounded in a unified approach as a people, celebrating, its history, heritage, and its culture, its food, and the safety, security, and above all, social stability. prayerfully, it'll be the economic as well as the political. But if we are, as a people, have a sense of societal acceptance and societal participation, so when we walk along the beaches or the parks or some of the unbeaten, off the beaten paths, as it were, that the person walking the dog, is conscious and cognizant of you and is responsible relative to the droppings of the dog. Or the person who's walking alone can know that there's a safety in it, and the person or the group up ahead isn't there to threaten, but actually to help accommodate. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for calling.
Oh, good afternoon, Dwayne.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
Fine, thanks for you, sir.
Oh, man, I am very blessed, and I say that sincerely, but even if I'm reminded each day that it is true.
Yeah, well, say what one of my friends used to say, one pastor, he says, a wonderful blessing, highly flavored.
I heard that one time. Flavored, huh?
To hear you talking. Only thing that I can tell I was talking to my friend this morning. I said, something? The only thing that this COVID situation reminds me was when Hurricane Ivan came to Cape. Because Ivan was a blessing for us, and it was he would say was a curse because there was a lot of stuff happening. But COVID is doing the same thing, because the people, the only opposite between this one and COVID, between the hurricane and COVID, is when after the morning after the storm, those that didn't want to do nothing for Cayman ran, because the government never had no money. We were all down water. They had no money. Now that the island had money that we could give away, everybody stayed here and nobody wants to leave. They all need, the people that don't have any work, they need to go. We got people still sleeping on the beaches. Why do we have people sleeping on our beaches? Where is all our police? Where is all border control and everybody that's supposed to be at home? We don't need, because they're sleeping on the beaches because they have nowhere to go. They can't pay their rent, but they don't want to go home. What time are we going to wake up and come out of this dream that we're having? It's a dream, and we're no longer a dream, because they're showing us now that they're not doing what we want them to do, so somebody else needs to step up and do what they're going to do.
Yeah. But as I listen to you, the idea that, and you raised it quite well, that we have
Mommy,
the amount of people in our society that are, in fact, homeless is probably increasing, but have they been homeless for the last decade, or has it always been an issue of homelessness and we've never acknowledged it? We've just ignored it and done nothing to address it. Is that part of the issue?
That's part of the issue. It has been here for a long time. Even before the COVID, we had people that are not from here that were sleeping in cars. They were sleeping in cars, and because they couldn't finish paying their rent or whatever the circumstances, so they rather than going home, they actually go and stay inside of old sheds or people rejected homes and stuff. This is the most that we have had.
But
so
then
we need to step up, and we need to wake up out of the dream that we're in, because it's not for the one.
Is it then that this morning I was truly privileged and honored to have been asked to help out with the census launch. Now, I don't say this in any way to offend anybody. If given a preference, I'd rather come sit with you and be comfortably attired than in a tux. I'd rather not have to engage in pomp and circumstance, understanding the importance of it. But to see the stellar work of the civil service in preparing for the census, to know that the volunteers are going to come out and assist. Yeah, they'll be compensated somewhat, but time, I think, is not,
So when they do their census now, are they now including going to the beaches and censusing the people that are on the beach, or they want to census in the Caymanians?
This is it, right? So I'm thinking that as a people, since we are probably unlike many places, we're going to count everybody. In the other times, they do a statistical sampling, but we can actually count every single person. And if we think back, to the 1999 census, and maybe we were some of the enumerators, maybe we heard things, but as we responded, maybe we have a perception as to whether or not, it was an accurate reflection or what was done with the data. But if we all respond to this now accurately, and we take that information and look at it in its entirety.
It's going to be very scary for us because we're going to get people that we're not expecting if we do it the right way. Because right now, I am made to understand, and, so people say where there's smoke, there's always fire. People are going to say they're not true, but, where there's smoke, there's fire. I am made to understand. I'm not going to call no nationality.
Yeah.
But I am going to say this, that open people's eyes, that what are going on here, that people are coming from their home country, coming here, getting babies, and are having babies at home so that they got their nurses, they're treating them. Maybe they work at the hospital, the nurses work there, and the nurses are delivering them at home, so they're not into if you check the birth record, they don't have a birth certificate. No.
Okay.
When we check them now, when they turn 18 years old and they decide that now they're coming out in society because they're an adult now and they're living in Cayman for 18 years, now what are we going to do with them? Where do we sit with them now? Is that the new generation now that is going to take over?
Well, I think this is where I keep... It's on my heart. It's been for a couple of years now, and worse for the last 18 months, consciously. We need to find a way to come together as a people. There are some significant social challenges that we're going to face. It's going to be worse because of what is happening globally. It's going to be probably exacerbated because of the political will or lack thereof globally, not just in the country, not just in the region. And these are hard things that we're probably not willing to even look at.
And again, you will see that those people that are come here and are riding the system by going to have babies in their house so that nobody knows who got their baby, don't really want to be with us, because if they want to be with us, they would go through the right channels where we go through, go to the hospital, go to the birth records, read to these babies. If you want to have it at home, it still should be recorded.
Well, okay, that may be...
We should have a true census. When we have a census, we should be able to say this is an accurate census because we did our best to get the census going. But now, if you go when you go into somebody's house and you see your last census, you did that house, and they say that they had just say 5 people live in that house. And now, since while you're there, you see 7 babies running up. I'm just making a reference. I'm not saying it would happen.
No.
But you see 7 babies happening, and they tell you that you only got 5 people living in this house. Is these children living here? Is these children belong to another family? But there might be the 7 children now that born in Cayman that's not in the record.
Right.
You next door are counting yours. I'm not counting mine. So who's going to give account to those babies?
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, right? But think of it this way too. What if, in addition to what you're saying, what if here are 2 other possible considerations? One, the people do not have adequate health insurance, so financially they can't afford it, and this may be why, if as you have shared.
I cut your story short. I hear what you say. Ignorance is no excuse for the law.
Not true.
The law says I'll give you a joke. My mother, I born on September 27th. My documents say that I born on October the 12th. Okay, so I have to go officially October the 12th. The reason why the old people had to do it because they used to charge them. They gave them 6 weeks, and you didn't have that child registered in 6 weeks, you got a fine. So they would have to go around it, and adjust to make sure that it's right. But we didn't wait till we were 18. We didn't wait till they were 18 years old to come and register them. We didn't wait till they were 18. We registered them when they was a baby before they turned a year old, and we were fine. Do we still have the same laws now, or we pulled out that seat now, and that one is the gums is grown up now, and we don't need that again?
Okay. Well, that's the second thing too. What if our society isn't one that somehow either, I agree with you, ignorance isn't, of the law isn't a defense, although we've seen a few cases in court where one springs to mind that seems to have been...
No offense to you, but those people that are doing that, the judges that go around that, they should be locked up themselves. That's my opinion.
All right, well,
because they're breaking the law too.
Yeah, but again, too, what if our society...
If the law is me, it should be for you and for everybody else. Shouldn't be a law for different people.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think this is where our society needs to look closely at what it's doing relative to its immigration, and when we seemingly can have people frivolously engage in appeals that they don't necessarily have a legitimate right to do just because, but then when we have people who are here legitimately, who contribute, who could be, a remarkable contributor to our society.
And we're proud of those people.
Yeah,
very proud.
So we need to make sure that
Majority of Caymanians are law-abiding citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very, 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 very proud. Very, very proud.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very proud.
Well,
that's like NAU. We don't want to go to NAU. Come on.
Yeah.
We don't want to go to NAU, but unfortunately, the countries at a stage now that they're pushing us to go to NAU because they're not giving us no opportunity to get a job and nothing. So when we don't get the same opportunity as everybody else, I mean, everywhere I turn, they must have brings in a new work permit every morning, especially the security center. Christ, I don't see hardly any Caymanian. I found one Caymanian child. I was so happy. I told him that he should be thanking me because I campaigned for him that we need Caymanians, and the next day I seen one on the job, so thank God we got one.
Yeah. Well, again, like so many things, two things are evident. One, we don't have the population in and of itself to support all of the employment. But two, the training, the opportunities, sometimes it could be the bureaucracy of a government structure. Sometimes it could be the industry, the way it operates. But knowledge is not just powerful, but empowering. So maybe it is time that we wake up to the realities and do something about it, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I told you, that deep sleep that we were in, you saw we come out of it a little bit, and boy, when that hit us, boy, we gonna get a bad dose.
I hear, boy.
Okay, Dwayne. Talk to you.
Thank you very much, too. And if you are looking, perhaps ways to contribute to make society positive, then that's good. Let's work hand in hand. Someone shared something earlier, and I thought it was great. I looked at it repeatedly. So the best preparation for today is doing your best, or the best preparation for tomorrow is doing your best for, today. So if you're going to prepare for tomorrow, the best way to do that is to do your best today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255 is that number we want you to use to call and share with us. Tomorrow, we're going to invite you to be a part of, especially the sort of production of our monthly mental health matters that we had to reschedule earlier, as we ask you to share and to appreciate the importance of it. Hopefully our friends at DCFS will be able to join us at the end of the program to talk about, pregnancy and teen pregnancy and prevention. But we'll close out today's show with what I think is an amazing singer-songwriter equally in the words of Rod Stewart. And Silver Fox, thanks for queuing this song up, man.